The biggest political story going on right now is Prime Minister Mark Carney's attempt to steal the majority government that he failed to win at the polls last year. There is kind of a humorous aspect to this story, though, because most of you will know that on December 11, Conservative Member of Parliament, or I should say former Conservative Member of Parliament, Michael Ma, crossed the floor to join the Liberal Party, putting, at the time, Mark Carney one seat away from a majority government because another Conservative MP had defected previously. Now, what's kind of humorous about this, because we rarely see such naked cynicism, such rank hypocrisy. Michael Ma actually voted with the Conservatives twice that day, and then he went to the Conservative Christmas party that evening, where he was supposed to give a Secret Santa gift to Jamal Giovanni and didn't. I guess he figured, well, I'm leaving the party anyway, so if they get upset at me, it's not going to make much of a difference. He danced at this party, and then he posed with his family with Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, one for the road, I guess. And the following night, he was at the Liberal Christmas party, announcing his defection to the Liberal Party. So again, part of this is kind of funny because it's such an obviously cynical move, but Pierre Poilievre obviously didn't think so. So he posted a statement condemning this, saying, Michael Ma was elected as a Conservative by the constituents of Markham Unionville to fight against liberal inflationary spending driving up the cost of living in his community. Today, he chose to endorse the very policies he was elected to oppose. The people he let down the most, are the ones who elected him to fight for an affordable future, and he will have to answer to them. Now, obviously, all of that's right as far as it goes, but Conservatives immediately started pointing out that Michael Ma became an MP last year not because he successfully ran for and won the Conservative nomination in his riding, but because he was personally appointed as a candidate by Pierre Poilievre himself. So one pro-life group noted, Michael Ma was one of the candidates appointed by Poilievre, thus denying grassroots members the right to vote in a nomination election for the candidate of their choice. Poilievre should never be allowed to appoint another candidate ever. Markham Unionville is one of the 110 ridings where Poilievre robbed EDA members their right to vote in a nomination contest. And they added, yet the new CPC rules enshrined an official right for the leader to appoint candidates. Why? So he can appoint more like Michael Ma? Because the Conservative Party, like every party, is increasingly under centralized control, and Pierre Poilievre has notoriously interfered in nomination races to put his preferred candidates into place. Of course, the most egregious example of that was in Oxford County, where the party intervened on behalf of Arpan Khanna, who lived in Brampton, not in Oxford, but was parachuted into Oxford and won the nomination quite handily after Gerrit van Dorland, a local candidate, was simply disqualified. And so a number of people, by the way, had been campaigning for the Conservative nomination in Markham Unionville. They had collectively sold thousands of memberships, and Ma didn't beat those people in the nomination. He was handed the nomination by party insiders. And so the party insiders, once again, should own this defection. They chose him, they vetted him, and then he walked. Went to the Conservative Christmas party one night, and the next night went to the Liberal Party. It's almost as if he was never a Conservative to begin with. And so my response when this story broke was, well, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. And the Conservative Party and Pierre Poilievre have been playing stupid games. They've basically been subverting the democratic process so that they can shunt in candidates that they think have broad appeal. But as it turns out, a lot of those candidates aren't actually ideologically conservative, which makes sense. They didn't even have to run in a conservative nomination. So another pro-life commenter noted on X, open nominations probably wouldn't mean floor crossings would never happen, but it would mean you'd have less of a chance of MPs who aren't ideologically committed to the party getting elected, something the CPC can hopefully ponder. Well, I suspect they're pondering it right now because another Conservative MP came out this week and said, yeah, I've actually been approached by the Carney people already, trying to find out what my price would be for crossing the floor. And this has been happening with other MPs as well. And one MP said he wasn't going to say how many, but yeah, Mark Carney is nakedly shopping around trying to find out which MPs he can pick off and urge to the other side of the floor. So the criticisms, of Michael Maw are obviously correct in every way. He's a total sellout. The Liberals clearly offered him something, what we don't know, to cross the floor, and Carney's going to try to do the same thing with more MPs. Probably with a couple more MPs, because a one-seat majority still means he's got such a razor-thin majority, it's difficult to get anything done, and it still doesn't give him the kind of power he's looking for. But the CPC party apparatus has made it pretty easy for Mark Carney by filling their ranks with fair-weather political opportunists who aren't conservative really in any way, except for maybe their commitment to fiscal responsibility, a vague commitment to fiscal responsibility. And this makes them easy marks for Mark Carney because he's currently stealing the CPC platform, and now he can make better professional offers. So if the entire gist of your campaign, if the entire thing your party stands for is axe the tax, build the home, stop the crime, and then Mark Carney gets in, promptly axes the carbon tax, and says, I'm going to build the homes, more homes than Canada's built since World War II. And yeah, I'm not a huge fan of crime either, but he's like the prime minister. And, he's a central banker and the boomers love him. And it looks like he's got way more staying power than anybody else realized. And he's not so performative on the woke stuff. So he's not embarrassing himself publicly like Justin Trudeau, talking about people kind and constantly waving a trans flag every chance that he gets. If the only thing that you're committed to are the three things Pierre Poilievre campaigned on, then it might not look terrible over in Mark Carney's camp, where you've actually got a crack at becoming a cabinet minister, or at least something that Pierre Poilievre clearly cannot offer you, and perhaps maybe never will be able to. So if your only conservative beliefs are, as Poilievre put it, an opposition to inflationary spending and a fight for unaffordable future, then a Liberal Party that claims to be doing just that, but like way more effectively and with actual power, is going to seem pretty attractive. This is what happens when you stack your party with political opportunists rather than people committed to conservative ideology, or at least something recognizable as conservative ideology. Because right now, Pierre Poilievre has basically been running as, we are socially liberal but fiscally conservative. And the most irritating thing in Canadian politics is leader after leader runs as a social liberal and a fiscal conservative. And when they lose the election, you've got all these people trying to say, see, the social conservatives cost us the election again. And they're literally some version of the meme of the guy who rams a stick through the spikes, the spokes of his own bike, falls off and says, why did the social conservatives make me do this? You did this to yourself. You claimed you were socially liberal, and you lost the election. So the one thing you can't claim is that you've run on a socially conservative platform and lost. And so it's worth pointing out here that a social conservative wouldn't be tempted by Mark Carney's promises, not because social conservatives could never be tempted to cross the floor, but because a social conservative could not, in good conscience, join a party that makes support for abortion mandatory. And so a lot of the backbenchers that are openly loathed by party insiders because of their social conservative views are far more loyal than anybody who just gets appointed at the last minute and shunted into the position. Their consciences may seem inconvenient during campaign time, but they're pretty reliable foot soldiers during the year. And maybe, just maybe, the party insiders who are too clever by half and have managed to lose 3 straight elections might consider the fact that a conservative party, if it is to be conservative, might want to stand for something besides being, a pride festival with a slightly better accountant than the other guys. Because it means that the other guys are going to have a much easier time talking your people all across the aisle. The conservatives are definitely better than the liberals on some things. They're better on religious liberty. They're better on Made for Mental Illness. And Pierre Poilievre definitely supports some common sense legislation. All I'm going to say is all those loathed social conservative backbenchers the party insiders find so inconvenient, they wouldn't have done what Michael Maw did. And maybe you should have more of those guys. Thank you, everyone, for watching the first 2026 episode of the Bridgehead Briefing. We'll be bringing the stories that are most important to you every single week. We'll be trying to keep you well informed. You can follow this podcast on YouTube. You can subscribe, drop a comment, tell us what other news you'd like us to be covering. You can also find this podcast wherever you get your content. Thanks so much for listening.